Alright, yeah, so today I want to talk about a modern addition to JavaScript, and that is the REST and the spread operator. Does anyone know what that looks like? The three dots, yeah? So if you've seen any three dots before a variable name in some code somewhere, then either they're using it as a REST operator or a spread operator. So it can be used for either. We'll clarify where it becomes spread and where it becomes a gather REST operator. So firstly, how do we use it and what can we use it on? So I've set up just a few different variables here. I've ingeniously called them string, array and object. Very clever naming of variables there. And we just want to see what happens when we apply these ellipses, these three dots, to each of the variables. So if we try and spread a string, what will that give? If we try and spread an array, what will that give? And if we try and spread an object, what will that give? Anyone want to take a stab before I just reveal the answers? What do we think will happen when I try and spread a string, spread an array, and spread an object?
I think the string might give an error.
String might give an error,
The array would give the elements individually as strings.
Array would give the elements individually as strings.
And you get with the object entry and value.
And with the object, you get separate entries and values. Okay, yeah, good attempt. Let's hear from other people and see what they say. If anyone else is being brave enough. I'm just going to run the string one, and the way I've written it won't actually be very clear, but just to say that it does actually do something. So spreading a string gives who is the most popular. Now that's not very clear whether that's broken it up into words or into characters. So I'm actually going to spread that string into an array. Yeah, but just to be clear that it does work without it. But usually in our code we will spread them into a container. We'll spread them into an object or spread them into an array. So you'll usually see it like that. So if I spread a string, it actually does that. It spreads it into an array of 24 characters. Yeah, so there's 24 characters in that mini sentence there, including the spaces, notice. So that's what the spread operator applied to a string does. It spreads out each individual character. So previously we've been doing something like string.split, yeah? And if we wanted each individual character, we'd do that. So those two are effectively equivalent. Yeah, doing an array with ... string and string.split with an empty string passed into it. How about the array then? What will that do? Nope, so it will spread out each individual element in the array. So it's just spreaded them out, right? But as I said, usually we will put that actually in a container. So again, I'll just put it into a new array. So effectively that is not changing anything. It's just spreading out each individual element into a new array. We could maybe see it a little bit clearer if we spread it out into an object instead. And that would do something like that. So it's created a key for us of 0, 1, 2, and 3 based on the index of an array, and the values have been spread out into each word, yeah? Each element in the array. It doesn't have to be a word, right? If I did it as a number, that's fine. If I did it as a function, that returns a string, and that's also fine. Yeah, we can see that string, number, another string, and a function here has been spread out. So we can quite easily spread mixed data types into an arrays and objects. But yeah, the spread operator also works on arrays. Will it work on objects? Or this object in particular that we have defined here? Should do? Yeah? Ooh. Found non-callable at iterator. So in other words, we can't by default iterate over objects created with an object literal, as we've done here, yeah, with the curly braces notation. We can't iterate over them by default. We can make objects iterable, but that's a topic for another time. So yeah, if we wanted to spread out an object, would it work if we put it in an array? Or will we get the same error? We get the same error. Object is not iterable, yeah. But, so the rest of the spread operator were introduced in 2015, so in ES6. They're quite modern, yeah. So up until, I believe, 2000 and, what are we going to get now? Is it 2018? Yeah, last year, I think. We couldn't spread objects at all, to my knowledge. But now, if we try and spread an object into an object, then it's actually clever enough to deal with that. So essentially that has just created a copy of the object. Yeah, that's a way of creating a copy of the object. And this would be a way of creating a copy of an object or an array like we saw earlier. And you know we did something like let array, we did let A equals B, yeah? But if instead we did let A equals, dot array, then if we decide to modify our original array in some way, we are not going to change our variable A. Yeah, it's created a totally separate instance, but with the same values inside. They're pointing to a different address in memory. That's just a link to this morning. Don't worry if it's not all syncing in at this stage. So, yeah, we can use the spread operator on many data types. Just be careful when dealing with objects because of that little caveat that objects by default are not iterable. Yeah. So let's look at a practical example, and we'll look at the platform later because there's a whole section on REST and spread, right? The triple dots on intermediate JavaScript. So hopefully some of you had a go. If not, then we can have a quick look at that now. So let's look at a practical example together. If we had, let's go with arrays because often we see it with arrays. Maybe let's even use the board challenge for now, right? We had, no, let's not go there yet. Let's create an array. Of a few numbers, and all I want to do is return the maximum number from this array. So could I do math.max array? You get what I'm trying to do, yeah? You get the idea. I'm just trying to return the maximum from an array. Is that feasible? quiet this afternoon. I'm going to have to start picking on people.
So what's the question again?
Will that work? Will that return, or what number do we want it to return? What is the maximum number in that array? 8, absolutely. So will that code return 8? Will that log 8 to the console? Or will something else happen? So that's the question, right? Can we pass an array into math.max? What sort of arguments does math.max expect? Yeah, it obviously if we did math.max an integer, we're just going to get 6 back, right? But if we did math.max 6, 7, 9 as comma separated list of items, then it's going to correctly identify 9 as the maximum there. So we know it definitely works with a comma separated list of values. Will it work if we just pass in an array instead? Okay, let's run the code. Porrick doesn't think it will. And we get not a number. So it's what? It's trying to find the maximum of an array, yeah. Which doesn't make sense. So how can we quickly access all of the individual items as a comma separated list in this array? Yeah, we can use the spread operator, right? The 3 dots. So this would be a practical example of the spread operator. Now if we run that code, we see it correctly identifies 8 as the value. Yeah, so that's one practical example of using it. The other examples we mentioned before are to actually create a copy, yeah? So new array equals ... array. Sorry, not new array. I meant the name new array, and then const new array equals that. Then if I tried to modify stick a 10 on the end, for example, and if I now logged my new array, will it have a 10 on the end or not? Will my new array have a 10 on the end or not? I've pushed 10 onto the original array. Then I created a copy of that original array by using the spread operator inside of a new array literal. So therefore we've given them different addresses in memory. Const new array, make sure you write camel case. And there we go. So the new array hasn't been modified in the same way as if we just did that. You see the difference? Yeah? So that's a way of creating copies without having them point to the same address in memory. And you could do the same thing with an object. If that was an object, we could also do new object and spread it out into an object, yeah? Cool, I want to keep my talking fairly short, and then we can get some time on the platform with some decent examples. Any questions on the spread operator so far? No, it's fairly self-explanatory, right? It just spreads things out into a comma separated list of values. Now, we had the beginner board challenge, and I probably shouldn't talk about it too much because Porrick's still yet to do it, but we said that we needed scores to be an array for the map function to work. But we were passing in a comma separated list of values. So when we use, let's just be clear. So if this was a function, when we use the 3 dots inside of a function, so inside of the function body, do it manually. Something like that. Then this is going to mean spread. There is somewhere else that we can put the 3 dots. We can put it up here, yeah, in the arguments. And when we see it up there in the argument list of a function, it's not going to be spreading things, it's going to be gathering things. It's now the rest operator, not the spread, yeah? Or rest parameters, you would call them. So if we had a comma-separated list and we wanted to do the opposite, turn it into an array rather than spread it out from an array into a comma-separated list, we could add 3 dots in front of our variable name. And that would turn scores into an array for us. So the top one is the console log of actual scores, and then the bottom one is obviously my return statement, yeah. So, yep, so it's gathered my 3 arguments into an array by using the 3 dots as the rest parameter. What score is going to be then if I didn't use the rest parameter? Abdul had this question when going through the board challenge. Can you remember now?
Yeah, I remember the questions.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you clear on the answer still, or not yet? You still have some questions about it?
No, I'm sure that's
So what's the value of scores going to be here? Or what's it going to log? Console.log scores. What value is it going to log to the console?
1.
1. Fantastic. Yeah. So the code does run. It just ignores these additional parameters that we've sent into the function. They're still there, stored, but we have no way to access them because we haven't assigned them into a variable. It's not strictly true. We could use the arguments keyword. Arguments. But anyway, that's a topic for another time again. So yeah, we've got 2 ways we can use it, right? We can gather or spread. And that is essentially it. Other than that, it's just looking at more complicated examples of how to use it. So we might as well jump over onto the platform for that. Yeah? Let's have a look. Intermediate, if you want to do it with us. Now this one is very, very similar to what we looked at with the get the max value. Yeah, so this time we're getting the min value. What are we passing into the get min value function? What type of data is it? Just shout it out. What type of data are we passing in? Yep, an array, definitely. So an array of 2 elements in that case, 4 in that case, 5 in that case. Okay. And how would we do it? And it says, please use math.min alongside the rest parameter. So there's math.min. What do I do next?
Add an argument.
Add an argument?
Yeah, numbers, for example.
Numbers? Awesome. So numbers is an array, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So what do we need to do to it? Okay, I can put in the return first. And we can spread our numbers. 3 dots would work. Semicolon. Very nice. So now math.min should be able to deal with all these numbers individually, yeah? It expects a comma separated list of values. And that's correct. Easy. Confetti time. Okay, so this is...
You would have thrown is that triple dot
Yep.
on an array, does it work in all scenarios, even when not just throwing the array into the minimum method, minimum max method? So basically what I'm saying is, can we use it to like split members of an array?
Yeah, okay, cool. So we can talk about a few limitations perhaps of the spread operator, yeah? Actually, yeah, I was thinking more about the limitations of up here in the function declaration. Say your question again so that I'm clear.
It's actually what you're saying, and what's its limitation really?
Yeah, but you asked, will it always spread an array or something like that? That was your question, right?
Yeah, like if we drop if we apply it to arrays in any circumstance, will it still work?
As far as I'm aware, yeah. All it does is it takes an array and it spreads it out into comma separated values. So it's the same as using a plus, right? If you use a plus to add 2 numbers, it always works. It's an operator.
Okay.
So yeah, I believe it will always work. I can't think of a scenario where it won't. The only issue I had with using it up here to gather the arguments together, let's say we had score 1, score 2, and score 3. Right. Score 1's 1, score 2 is 3, and score 3 is 4. Maybe I should just do 1, 2, 3 so it's not confusing. But if I wanted to just put number 1 on its own and then gather the remaining ones into an array, I could do that like that. Yeah, so now the value of other scores is going to be what? 2 and 3 inside of an array. Yeah? Fantastic. If I wanted to gather 1 and 2 and then leave 3 on its own, I could do that, right? Yeah? It's complaining though. Ooh, rest parameter must be last formal parameter. Yeah, so that's a limitation of using rest parameters. It can only gather the remaining arguments. It can't gather up until a specified point and then gather the rest. It's not clever enough to do that at this stage. In future editions of JavaScript, maybe we'll have that functionality. But for now, if you need to use the rest parameter, I managed to mix the 2 words then, that was clever. If you need to use the rest parameter, then it has to be the last argument in your function declaration. Yeah, has to be like that. Is that okay, Abdul? Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Back to the questions. Get sorted array. Okay, so we pass in 3 values this time, and we want to convert them into an array and then sort it. Yeah, that would be the steps. So am I going to use my triple dots inside of my function or up there? Oh, we've got different answers. So an S says inside, and then who was that? Vince that said. It said in the parameters, yeah. So what do we want to do first? Well, we've got a list of 3 things. Do we want to gather them or spread those 3 things? An S. We want to gather them, right? Yeah. So if we're gathering things, it needs to come up here, inside of the. Oh, I thought you said inside the function. Oh, well, no, what I meant was like, yeah. Yeah, so inside the function body is this bit here, line 2, and this would be the function arguments or in the function declaration, yeah? Okay, that's what you meant, but yeah. Maybe my question wasn't clear enough. Cool, so everyone agrees that we need to do it up here, and we can call them numbers. Then we're probably going to return numbers. But if we return it like that, it's not going to be in the correct order, is it? So we can use an additional method. Nice. Will it work just like that? Or do I need to do something to my sort function? We want it in ascending order, yeah. So as far as I'm aware, yeah, that's the default. So we could just do it like that. Otherwise, you'd have to write a custom sort function here, which is a callback, takes 2 arguments, first element, second element that you're comparing it with, and then if the result is -1, then it's going to put that element first. And it's hard not to get these mixed up. So if in doubt, you can always check the documentation. And it clearly says, if compare function a, comma b is less than 0, then a goes to an index lower than b. In other words, if that was still not making it easy for you, then if we wrote our function like that, a minus b, and let's consider the first pair, right? We've got a 3, so that is a, and we've got a 2, which in this case is b. If we do 3 minus 2, we get 3 minus 2 is, in maths, -1. 3 minus 2. 1, yeah. So 3 minus 2 is +1. So therefore, B comes before A, yeah? Or A gets moved after B. So our list is now 2, 3, and we're at index 1. We then use the callback function again. So A is... Did I say that right? So it's a minus b. We had 3 minus 2, which was, yeah. So the +1, so a has moved behind. Yeah. So now index 1 is 3, and our b value here is going to be 6. So we do 3 minus 6 gives us -3, yeah. So if we've got -3, then that means that it's a minus value, so A is at a lower index than B. So in other words, they stay as they are. Yeah. So that should be equivalent. That should also sort in ascending order, and it does. How would I sort in descending order? B minus A, exactly. Yeah. but you could write, so now we've got 632, but you could write any function that you wanted in here as long as it obeys the rules of sort, yeah? If it evaluates to -1, switch the elements. If it evaluates to 0, leave them as they are. And if it evaluates to +1, switch A behind B, or A at a later index than B. But you're quite right, the default is ascending, so to simplify it, just do that. Alright, moving on. Get merged arrays. Yeah, so this is another way that we could use the spread operator that we haven't covered. So we have now 2 arguments, yeah? 2 arrays. So I'm just going to call them array 1 and array 2. And then I want to merge those 2 arrays. How would I go about that? Concatenate. I could concatenate. It probably says down here, please use the rest parameter. Were you going to use the rest parameter? Or were you just going to concat? Were you just going to do array 1 dot concat array 2? Will that work in this case? If I return, it will, yeah. Sorry, it's my fault. Array 2. So that does work. So that's one way you can do it. But, as it says, please use the rest parameter. Can we do that with the rest parameter? Yep. It'd be a really bad question if we couldn't. Square brackets. So we're returning an array. Makes sense? Where does the dot go?
So we're on array 2 because this was the last.
So yeah, we had a limitation up here when we used it as rest that it could only gather the last, the remaining arguments. But is there any such limitation here? Could I do it that way around? Dot dot dot. Yeah. What did you say, Vince? Yeah, we need a dot 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 on both because. Yeah, because if I just put them on one, no, if I said if, I agree with your answer, but if I just put them on one, look what's happened. We've got a nested array, yeah, because we've just popped array 1 inside of this new array that we've created. So you're quite right, we need to spread both of them. So you might think, oh, that's longer. I'd rather use concatenate. And in this case, I would probably agree with you. But if we had, what are our numbers? We haven't really got any nice numbers, have we? But if we had 1, 2, 3, comma, and then for whatever reason we'd missed out number 4 and we wanted to insert it, then with concatenate you're going to have to make 2 function calls, right? You're going to have to concat a 4 inside and then concat the next array as well. So is there a way that we can use the spread operator? I'm thinking of this example here, right? Because we've got a 4 there. Is there a way that we could get this 4 inside of the array? So 4 is currently stored in array 1 on this second example. Or does ... array 1 have to be at the end? Oh, array 1. Yeah, so we can actually just do insert our new array or our new values at any point that we wish. So to me, that's when it becomes a bit more useful. Yeah, we can copy and paste and merge and stick things together by using the REST operator at any position. It's just like another element, yeah? So of course that's the wrong answer, but can you now see that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in that case, yeah? Cool. So that would be one decent use of merging another array into another with, well, by using the spread operator. Something like that, yeah. Cool. Do you want to do 4 or 5? We'll do one more. This one? Next one? No, do I? We'll do the last one, right? Because then we feel like we've completed it. Get message. Hello as a string and Kadiri world as an array. I think there's multiple approaches for this one, but
You put the two counters and S and A for string and array. Because you get one counter, so you can split that.
oh yeah, it's just one
It's one big array.
one argument, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got just an array.
Or we could just use it like that and say return arrays plus array 2.
So we could, yep, we could. We want to return it as a string, right? Yep. So return array 0, and you said plus, did you?
Yeah.
Yep. Plus dot dot dot.
Yeah. Array and square brackets 1.
Yeah. So that's Richard's suggestion. Dot dot dot. Just like that. Or oh, yeah. Unexpected token. 220, so it's probably here, right? You said, I said, remember, we often need it inside an actual container. It's not going to like that.
Put it all in an array and then press
Well, we needed to return a string.
We needed to return a string, yeah, but we've actually got a syntax error at the moment. So if we just return it bit by bit, we can see where it's breaking, right? So if you returned array 0, then we get hello as a string. And if we return dot 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 array 1, then I think it's going to complain. Yeah. So instead you suggested, Richard, to put it all into an array, yeah?
and then join it with space.
So now we're going to get an array, a combined, what have we done wrong now?
Comma instead of plus.
Oh, yep, fantastic, because we're in an array. We need that. So now we've got some comma separated items. Yep, so we looked at that in board challenge in week 1. And what method was that? Dot replace? Dot join, yeah? So we can join the elements in an array, turn it into a string, and we want to use what? Empty string, space? What do we want to use? No space. Space, yeah? If we did it without the space, we get things joined without a space. Yeah, so just all merged into one. So that, I think, is what we were looking for in this question. If you have a question like this that has nested arrays, because we were talking about very modern methods, then what we could do is we could take our array and we could use a method called flat, which will flatten out our array. In other words, if it sees an array, it effectively spreads that out into a new one, what we did, yeah? And it takes one argument, and that is the depth. So we just want to flatten out one level, yeah? If we had another array inside, we'd have to put flat 2. So that should, array.flat is not a function. That's interesting, I thought it was flat. Array.flat, there it is. So maybe it's not supported in our platform yet, which is interesting. If I do it in DevTools, and the question was, get message.
Is that because you need to have an array inside flat parentheses and then square brackets?
No, I don't think so. So if I try it in DevTools, just to check whether it's an issue with our platform not supporting the latest methods yet, because technically they haven't been released yet officially. They're released this month, I think, but Chrome has already incorporated these methods early. Let's have a look. Will it run? Yeah. So that is an alternative solution in this case when we have some nested arrays. And if we had, what's that?
Would that is for this scenario, for this problem, will it work?
Reduce will always work, but it will be a lot more complicated to write code than using this, yeah? We could reduce it certainly down to one string, but the steps in the algorithm would be a lot harder to reason about, yeah? If I've got a double nested array here, right? I've got an outer array, 1 level deep, and then I've got something that's 2 level deep as well. How do you think I would flatten that out?
Chain flats, so flat 1, flat 2.
Don't know what that's going to do. Will it actually work? Oh, sorry, not the semicolon, and then chain the join on the end. That does work, but
You just want to do flat 2.
but we can just do flat 2, yeah. Oh,
Not seen the flat method before.
but we can just do flat 2, yeah. If we just did flat 1, it's only oh. Yeah, right, I expected that to be an array. Yeah, so if you use flat 1, then notice that we've still got an array left in there because that was 2 levels deep. If we use flat 2, then that means that it takes away that second level nested array as well. If you're not sure how deep you want to go, you can use the JavaScript value infinity, and that will go as deep as necessary. Okay. Cool. Any questions anyway, coming back to rest and spread? And don't use flat in the platform yet, but soon it will be supported. What did I press there? There we go. No questions? Okay, cool. Well, I'll get round each of you and just check that you're happy with how you're progressing. And yeah, save up the questions for then if you've got them. There I am.